Amen. We're going to be in Exodus tonight, chapter 32, if you want to turn there. So, yesterday, Ron and I, we loaded up the boys. It was kind of a last-minute decision. Took them to a place called Air View in Longview. They love it. It's like a big trampoline park. You know, it's quite a bit of hassle to get 3 kids ready and in the car and going down the road. I mean, it's less of a hassle than it used to be with 2 car seats and all the business that goes on with babies, because you've got to have certain things when you leave the house with babies. Bigger kids, not so much, but it's still a hassle to get them in the car. Go beeping, all this stuff. You got to tell the boys everything to do, every step to take until we get into the car, and then they need a snack. And so we got to go back, and anyways, you get the point. It's sort of a hassle. So you got to sort of endure the process to get to the trampoline park so we can have a party, to indulge, to have fun. We have to endure the process in order to indulge. And let me tell you something. When we take the boys anywhere, they are not travelers. They don't like the car, and so in about 5 minutes, they think it's been 5 hours. Mama, are we there yet? Mama, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Mama, I'm sleepy. Mama, can I unbuckle? Mama, I'm hungry again. It's 5 minutes, and it is a deal where if we're going somewhere with the boys, we have to know it's going to take a little bit of endurance in order to get to the indulgence. Okay, hang on to that. Hang on to that. So Exodus, there's enough dramatic events that happen in Exodus. You probably know, a lot about them, but I mean, we got lots of drama going on in Exodus. I mean, more than a woman who's emotional drama going on in Exodus. I mean, we have the parting of the Red Sea. We have the freeing of the Israelites. We have the 10 plagues. We have water from rocks. We have Aaron throwing down his staff and it becomes a snake. We have Moses. We have God appearing to Moses through a burning bush. We have the establishment of the covenant and the 10 commandments. And we have the infamous golden calf event. So you've been in church any amount of time. You've probably heard about these stories. You've studied them, maybe. You probably know a lot about them. You may have heard a lot of messages about these very well-known biblical events, but it never ceases to blow my mind after I read them again how quickly the Israelites turn astray. Okay? How quickly they lose hope. How quickly they lose faith, how quickly they lose patience and turn away from everything they said they would do. Even in the midst of the miraculous that they witnessed with their own eyes, it doesn't take long for them to just completely forget everything that just happened. It really never ceases to blow my mind after I read these stories again. I mean, how could they do that? You sit there and you think they saw the waters part, and they walked through there. They saw the plagues. They've seen all these miraculous things. How could they go from worshiping a God that performed these miracles to a God they created themselves? How could they do that? How could they do that? It seems so ridiculous until we think about it in a way that we do it too. That we do it too. We want to sit back and look at this story like we never do something like that. We would never do something like that. I mean, they went from worship to saying, Lord, we'll do whatever you say. And then they went to worshiping a God that they made in like an hour with earrings. It's just craziness. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. But I submit to you that we may not be physically bowing down to a golden calf, okay, like they were. and worshiping it. But we do the same thing when we bow down and worship our addictions, our obsessions, and ultimately our own way, ourself, over the way and the will and the Word of God. So that's where we're going tonight. That's going to be kind of the crux of the whole message. And if you want to put a title on it, I would title it, What's Your Choice? What's your choice? What's your choice? Do you ever realize, in the midst of a day, how many choices you make, even per minute? I thought about it one morning as I was trying to get the boys ready for school. You make a lot of choices in a couple minutes, right when you wake up a lot of times. You think about it, you got to choose when you're going to wake up, if you're going to get up. You got to choose. If you have little ones, you got to choose what they're going to eat, what they're going to wear. You got to choose what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear. I mean, if you run a business, then you've got even more choices that you're making. You understand. I mean, it's endless, the amount of choices that we make daily. You had to choose to come here tonight, and boy, you did. I mean, it's a great crowd. I love seeing you. I'm glad you chose to come. I mean, your choice might have included getting back out of your comfy clothes and coming back up here. And sometimes we think that's a sacrifice, and I appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. But you have to choose to come. But I was thinking about this, and all the choices. I mean, sometimes I just am so bogged down in decisions. And I thought, you know what? The only choice that matters is sort of this ocean of choices that we swim around in. The only choice that matters is that today, this minute, I choose God's way over my way. You see, if I choose God's way over my way, all the other choices I have to make, they're going to make a lot more sense. They're going to flow a lot better if I keep in mind the ultimate choice that I have to make right now is God's will for my life and not my own. Okay? Y'all agree with that? It's the only choice, it's the only decision that's going to kind of keep us afloat for the long haul. Would you agree with that? It's the only decision that's going to keep us going in the long run, the choice of God over self. So today, will I choose God and His ways over myself and my ways? It sounds like an easy answer, doesn't it? I mean, He's the Creator. He's the one that knows everything. He's the one who's in control, whether you want to admit it or not. You're not in control. He is. I mean, He's the one that's all-powerful. He's the one that loves you more than anybody else could ever even dream or imagine loving you. He's the one that gives you grace. He's the one that's merciful. He's the one that never changes. He's our Creator God. And so if you're presented with the question today, will you choose your Creator God that has all these awesome things about Him? He wants to provide for you. He wants to protect you. He wants to work this thing out for you. Would you choose God, or would you choose yourself? I mean, when you're presented with it that way, it wouldn't make any sense that we would choose ourselves over our Creator God, does it? But we do. We do. We do it on a daily basis. We think about the Israelites, and we're fixing to read the story, but you think about the Israelites, they saw it with their own eyes, what God did for them. They saw it with their own eyes, what God did for them, and still, after witnessing the mighty hand of God, how could they choose anything but Him? I was thinking about this. God, in what's in this book, and what this book that's falling apart says for me, says what the promises that are in here for me, the guidelines that it gives to me, the promises that are in store for me on the other side. I mean, y'all, in this crazy world, it's the only thing that really makes sense anymore. It's the only thing that makes sense. And I hope I don't need that part tonight. I might have to borrow somebody's. That's use right there. That's use, y'all. Use. The only thing that really makes sense anymore is this book and what it says for me. And so I want to choose this way. I want to choose this way. And I know I'm hammering on this a lot, but y'all, I mean, we have a choice. We have a choice. You have a choice every day. And it doesn't matter what's happened in your past. It doesn't matter what your husband's done to you. It doesn't matter what your parents have done to you. It doesn't matter what you have done, what wrong you've done. It doesn't matter what kind of wrong has been done to you. You have a choice. You have a choice. And you know, I mean, that's hard. It's like we talked about being shipwrecked this morning. It's hard when you're shipwrecked to make the choice for God. But you still have it. You still have it. You still have the opportunity to choose Him. You have it. You have the opportunity to choose. And why on earth will we not choose Him? From the outside looking in, as we begin to look at this story, it seems like a no-brainer. We would sit back and say, how could they worship this calf in place of God? How could they do it? It's a statue. And they're worshiping it and exalting it as a pretend God, basically choosing their desires of self in God's place. And that's what we do daily when we choose our own way. That's what we do daily when we choose our own way. When we give into addiction, when we give into obsession, we are choosing to worship our self-created golden calves in place of our Creator. In place of our Creator. And it's madness, but we choose it daily. Why is it so attractive? Why is self, our ways, so attractive? Let's talk about that. Let's get a little context before we get into our scripture. If you flip back a couple chapters, you don't have to, you can. But if you flip back a couple chapters, chapter 17, the scriptures tell us that the Israelites had just come off a very intense battle. Y'all remember the battle with the Amalekites. It's the battle where if Moses, as long as he had his hands lifted up in the air, okay, the Israelites were winning. But if they begin to fall, did you have something? No. But if they begin to fall, then they would begin to lose. They were victorious in the battle, okay? So after they beat the Amalekites, they entered into the desert of Sinai, okay? It's around chapter 19. And they camped at the foot of the mountain there at Sinai. Now, they've been through a lot, okay? They had been through the Red Sea. They had been through the plagues. They had been through this intense battle. And now they're camped out at the bottom of Mount Sinai. It's been about 3 months, okay, at this point. Since they were freed from Egypt, and now at the base of the mountain. It's been about 3 months. So from chapter 19 to chapter 32, we've got Moses. The Lord descended to the top of the mountain, and we've got Moses going up and down the mountain to receive instructions, bring them back to the Israelites. And when he would come back, the response would be, the Israelites would say, we will do everything the Lord has said. That's what they said in response to the instructions they were receiving from God via Moses. We will do everything the Lord has said. So this included the first and second commandments given by God Himself directly to the Israelites. That's the only time He spoke directly to the Israelites, because after He did, they had so much fear in them. They're like, Moses, if we do that again, we're going to die. You just talk to us. But He gave the 10 commandments directly to the Israelites. So the first and second commandment, you shall have no other gods before me, or other than me, and you shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything. Okay? You shall not worship or bow down to them. Fast forward to verse 32. Is everybody following me? Yes? Okay. So we're in verse 30. We're in chapter 32 now. Moses is still up there. So we've got the 10 commandments. God spoke them to the people. They're like, don't do that again. We can't handle it. Just talk to us through Moses. So Moses he's back up there with God, still They gathered around, or translation is, gathered against Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses, who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." So, in about 12 chapters, right around 40 days, we've got a major change here. We've got a major change in what's going on with the Israelites from "we will do everything the Lord has said" to "we don't know what's going on anymore, come make us some gods." Wow. Wow. You know, I hate to admit it, but when I read that, I was like, that sounds like me sometimes. You know, sometimes I'm in a pep rally one day, and literally the next I can wake up and I feel like I've been ran over by something. I mean, it's sort of just the way it goes sometimes. You know, so they're having this spiritual pep rally. They're going to do whatever God said. We're all in, gung ho, yes, God. And then they face a little bit of waiting time. They face a little bit of adversity, and things change. Things change big time. I mean, how quickly they forgot all God had done for them, right? I mean, y'all, they left Egypt, and they got to the base of Mount Sinai. It's been about 4 months. They had been in slavery for 430 years. And after 4 months, they just forgot everything that had just happened. I mean, do you think you would forget water's parting? I mean, don't you think you could have made it a little bit longer than 40 days? I think I could have. I don't know, maybe not. But so hastily they forgot his promises. You know, the fear that they felt when he came down and he spoke the 10 commandments to them. I mean, the fear that they felt, they forgot it. They didn't fear him anymore. We're just gonna do what we need to do. They entered into a bit of a dry spell. They were challenged with a little bit of adversity. You know, Moses wasn't around anymore. That was their kind of accountability partner. He wasn't there anymore. He wasn't present at the time. So they just seemed like nothing was going their way now. You know, nothing's really going at all. So they make the choice to take matters into their own hands. We don't do that. None of us do that. They make the choice to take matters into their own hands, and they break their promise to God by breaking the first commandment He gave, the very first one. And then it skipped down to like 8 or 9. The very first one, they break. Their assumptions got the best of them. Anybody ever been there? I think women are good at this. It's like we don't really know what's going on. I mean, we don't know really anything for a fact, but boy, we can get some stories going on up in our heads. We can assume with the best of them. And I mean, I'm talking about stories that are never even going to be thinking about happening. We dreamt them up, and they're going to happen. We've convinced ourselves. Y'all don't do that either. I guess that's just me. Woo! Their assumptions got the best of them. You know, they thought, oh, he's apparently lost interest. He's not there anymore. You know, they just get tired of waiting. They just get tired of waiting on him to show them the way. And this guy, Moses, he's probably up there playing football or something. I mean, you know, he's just probably up there playing around. He's not up there. He's up there with God. And God's writing on tablets, instructions, testimony to take back to the Israel. He's up there with God. He's doing business with God. And they just assume, wow, this fellow Moses, what's happened to him? We don't know. This is what's cool. They assumed it was Moses delaying. But it was God delaying. He wasn't finished yet. They assumed it was Moses delaying, but it was God delaying because he wasn't finished yet. He wasn't finished yet. Maybe he's not finished yet in some of your lives. He's not finished yet. Don't cut him off. Don't cut him off. And they made their own tangible God. This sounds a lot like us. We feel He's so long in coming. Sometimes, don't we? Especially when we're shipwrecked. You weren't here this morning. Our pastor, they're reworking stuff up here, and he had this big pile of junk on the stage, and he looked like he'd been shipwrecked in what he was wearing. I just have to tell y'all this real quick. His hair was all messed up, and I told him after the service, that's probably you when you're like 80. We have to get you out of the home, bring you up here so you can still tell us like it is, and then we'll take you back. You know? But I forgot what I was saying. Anyways, we feel like He's so long in coming when we're shipwrecked. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we're shipwrecked. We feel like we get so tired of waiting. We want something to satisfy ourselves, and we want it right now. We want something we can feel. We want something we can touch, and we've got to have it. And in today's world, you can get it right now. You can get it with the click of a button. You can get it now. And that's what we do.